Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown, like obviously getting a lot of publicity this week. Now, at BetMGM, A.J. Brown is not even listed. I know there are some books, Ken, that you said maybe like 125 to 1, maybe even like longer price for A.J. Brown to win MVP. Tyreek Hill is listed at BetMGM. He's 40 to 1. Just for context, their two quarterbacks, Tua and Jalen Hurts, are both plus 350, the second choice, tied for the second choice in the market to win most valuable player. Ken, is this a pipe dream for people that one of these guys could win most valuable player? What do you think about Tyreek and A.J. Brown in this market?
And to be fair, like Tyreek's price is the one that's gotten mashed this week. Like he was like 80, 90, and now he's 50, and now in some places he's 30. I saw one place he was like right behind Burrow now, and alongside McCaffrey, which I guess is fine because they're both as likely to win, McCaffrey and Tyreek, and that I think they're both not. But they can be like in that tier. Like I'm okay with them being ahead of Goff and ahead of, Derek Carr or something, like all these like kind of the riffraff in the middle. Like they can be ahead of all those guys. And historically, here's the thing that really trips me up, because here's the argument for. They're both going to have record-setting seasons. They are both currently on pace to break Calvin Johnson's single-season receiving yards record. Tyreek leads A.J. Brown by like 80 yards and leads him by like 3 touchdowns, which is kind of significant because, that's more than what A.J. Brown has. So if it's between the two of them, Tyreek's going to win a lot. So let's say Tyreek's your best case. Let's say he breaks 2,000 and he leads the NFL in receiving touchdowns also. Best case scenario. The problem is the skill position players that have won MVP historically, going back, and there haven't been many, even since 2000 or since 1990. Like you go back and you go, okay, did they have competition in terms of their quarterback to win most valuable player when they won? Adrian Peterson is the last skill position player to win most valuable player. His quarterback was Christian Ponder. Like, not a competition. Not at all. Not even close. So, like, yes, that's how Adrian Peterson won most valuable player. Because, like, the hell they were going to give it to Christian Ponder, who, like, did nothing. Okay, great. Like, the previous as skill position player to win MVP before that, Sean Alexander. His quarterback was Matt Hasselbeck, who's, like, good, but is not, like, the types of quarterbacks we're about to talk about with these two guys in terms of the season that they had. Like, yeah, Sean Alexander can win. LaDainian Tomlinson won the year before that. He had, like, rookie Phillip Rivers as like the quarterback of his team, like the year that he won most valuable player and offensive player of the year. Again, like what do all those have in common? No competition from the quarterback whatsoever to win the award when you have a dominant statistical season. There's a hell of a lot of competition with these two guys from their quarterback to win most valuable player. Jalen Hurts arguably should have won last year. Everybody thinks of him this way. Tua is like the darling of the NFL this year. That's Tyreek's quarter. We just played the clip. Tyreek caught a touchdown. The back end of the call is brilliant throw by Tua. that's the back end of the call. Like that. Again, it can happen. Like if you bet long shots, I'm rooting for you. Like it'd be cool if they won. But again, just think historically. Like Adrian Peterson had Christian Ponder. Sean Alexander had Matt Hasselbeck. LaDainian Tomlinson had early Phillip Rivers. There was a path here. Like Tyreek's path is through Tua. A.J. Brown's path is through Jalen Hurts. And if they break those records and the teams win a lot of games, that probably means Tua had a really good year. It probably means Jalen Hurts had a really good year. It's just a really, really tough case to make in terms of actually winning.
At BetMGM, Hamlin's still a minus price. At others, he's even money or a plus price to win comeback player of the year. And Ken, you mentioned like maybe the issue being like identifying the person who's going to win it if it is not Damar Hamlin. So in the last segment, I read a bunch of the prices on the board for some of the notable players. What prices do you think are interesting? Are you adding to your hashtag portfolio? What are you doing here with comeback player of the year as we enter week 9?
But I will be interested to see, assuming Hamlin's inactive against the Bengals, which we expect. I think I expect him to be inactive every game the rest of the season, to be honest. And I don't know why we'd think anything else at this point, unless there's an injury. I'll be curious to see how his collapse and the aftermath and everything, how that's covered on the game. Not that should change the price in the market or anything. Just like we'll be interested in listening to the discussion around that and like how it's discussed and how often it's brought up and like how prevalent it remains. I just got to be honest, like the telecast will hammer it. Like they'll bring it up a lot, obviously, because it's a significant thing. But I do feel like the general consensus among just like people is like we're kind of past that. Like we're just not, like it was a long time ago. And the idea that like, the opinion before the year that, well, if he just plays one snap, it's over. Be like, okay, ask anybody that said that then. They really think that's true right now? Really? I think it is possible that in a lot of sports books, the winner is not even listed still. Not even on the list. Not even a guy which think about like how insane that is. It's going to be week 10 next week. But like, I don't think it's Hamlin. I think Tua can win, and maybe he's the safety net if nobody materializes. Also, if they beat Mahomes, he's going to win MVP. Like, he ain't winning both, ever. So just, like, you can forget that one if he wins MVP. Or, like, honestly, if he's a finalist, does he win? Does he win comeback player? Like, he's in that race then. If he beats the Chiefs, like, I think his chances of winning comeback player of the year almost go to 0. So, okay, like, it isn't him. It's never Lamar. Breece Hall's like a younger player who never did it before he got hurt. I think that's a tough case to make. And you go down the list and it's like, no. You get to all my players, maybe? No. Stafford's hurt. Like all these other, you just go Michael Thomas, no. Jonathan Taylor, no. Like you get to all these names and then you're like, God, like who is it going to be? And you start really trying to get crazy here. And you start being like, okay, is there anyone that like I could make the remotest case for? And you start going through some names. So like the first name you think about is like Kyler Murray's going to come back next week. Like what if he's really good? And the problem with that is they suck and they're not going to win a lot of games. And he can be good, but I think if he's good and they don't win, he can't win. And like they're not going to win a lot. Like they're just really not going to win a lot. If they start winning, I'm in. If they're not winning and he's still playing well, I'm out. So like I can't really do that. Aaron Rodgers, when does he have to come back for this?
Ken, I got asked about this week on a couple of media spots that I do about can Aaron Rodgers win comeback player of the year? Think about that.
I mean, like, could you imagine a bigger comeback? He tore his Achilles this year. It's a medical miracle if he comes back.
I mean,
I don't think he's gonna play.
How much better is that, by the way, like DeMar Hamlin? And it's not the same thing. Like Hamlin, thank God he's alive, obviously. Like the two things are not even close to the same. Yes.
Right, yeah. He's not playing football. I like the awards to go to people that play. That's what I like. Rodgers comes back, and that's why if Rodgers comes back like week 18, he can't. I don't think he can win. But like, okay, like set the week over under for if he comes back before this week. This needs to be taken seriously.
Oh man,
11 and a half, 12 and a half.
He comes back in week 18 and plays week 18 for the Jets. I think he might win.
I want this award to get nuts. And again, like if you listen to this and you're like Ken's nuts, you should be on my side. I want things that are nuts because we win a lot more money when that happens. Like, I'm going to bet DeMar Hamlin minus 500 because if he plays the snap, he wins. Congrats on your $8 in 9 months. Like, what? Who wants that? Like, who's rooting for that? It's so lame. Like, you don't like winning a lot of money? You like bragging and winning no money? That's what you like? Great. Then this is for you.
Josh Allen practiced in full on Thursday for Buffalo. So maybe the Bills drawing a little interest off of that. Cincinnati right now, like in between a 1.5 and a 2-point home favorite. The total is 49.5 and has gotten bet up over the course of the week. Any bets for you, Connor, with the Bengals and the Bills on Sunday night?
Yeah, I still like the over here. I think I would play it at over 49.5. This Buffalo defense just hasn't been the same since getting injured. They lost Matt Milano, Daquan Jones. Since then, they're bottom 3 in EPA per play, 28th in success rate overall, and that's despite playing against the Bucks, Giants, Jags, and Patriots. And they played well in some of those games, but I mean, we're handled by the Patriots, who looked lifeless offensively, and then the Jaguars as well. I think the Jaguars could have laid 40 on them, and I don't think anyone would have been too surprised in that spot. So with this Cincy offense coming out of the bye, Joe Burrow looking significantly more healthy. The key for me was also Joe Burrow lining up under center, being able to execute the offense in a wide variety of ways compared to what he was doing prior to that. During his injury, he was in the shotgun like 95, 99% of the time, and they just weren't able to really do everything that he's good at. And so I think now we saw it against San Francisco. I'm not going to say he's like fully all the way 100% back, but I think that in this spot here against a beat-up Buffalo defense that, we're going to see a pretty good outing here from the Cincy team. And then Buffalo's offense, I think, is a little bit underrated coming in this spot. Cincinnati's defense, run defense, has been bottom 3 in a ton of metrics. Pass defense has been average to above average, depending on what you're looking at. So if you factor all that in here, I think for me, that's a pretty right position for an over, considering what we're getting for both offenses here.
Connor, I like to run an award opinion by you sometimes, or just kind of pick your brain on how you're feeling about stuff. I see that you like this bet, and my first thought's going to be, okay, like if you think that Burrow's back and the offense is back, or you think that Josh Allen and the Bills can have success, you like the over in the game that trends toward the quarterbacks having really good games. And these are two quarterbacks who kind of trail the primary contenders for most valuable player. Now, obviously, Mahomes and Tua are playing each other also. Winner of that game gets a big leg up. But behind them, maybe next to the loser of that game, could be one of these guys. And we saw Joe Burrow's price drop a ton. He's under 20-1 now to win the award. Josh Allen's like 13, 15-1 consensus. Lamar Jackson single digits. Hurts, Tua, Mahomes up up top. Now that you like the over and you think that's like a high scoring kind of shootout game, does it make you want to bet either of those quarterbacks to maybe challenge for MVP at the end of the year?
Yeah, I already bet actually Joe Burrow MVP. I know one of your later guests, Evan Silva, has talked about that with me as well. And we're both on it because I think you're looking at this here where if Joe Burrow is all the way back, I mean, they just beat San Francisco. They beat Cincinnati here and they go on a little bit of a run. They could easily win the division. You know, if that happens, like there's so many different factors here where if the offense starts playing well, I think there's still enough time for, you know, voters to forgive the sins of the early season, Joe Burrow that we saw here. And I mean, we can just chalk it up to injury. It's like he was injured, wasn't injured, and he played amazing. He deserves MVP. So I think you're getting significantly more value here because the guys at the top of the board, in my mind, are a little bit fragile. We're talking about Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Mahomes, and Lamar are all kind of like the top tier guys in this spot in this market. Like, I like the Dolphins. I like Tua. I like Mike McDaniel. But for me, it just seems like they haven't had a big win yet. They haven't really been able to knock off the top team. And like a lot of these guys are just they don't have as strong of a case that I would say in past years as like some of the previous guys up top. So I think that there's some of the lower tier guys like Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, or you can make a good case for.
Why don't we start with the classic, which I think Nick before the show was like, or the first segment of the show was like, oh, the Breeders' Cup. I go, it's actually a ton of races. It's like all day Friday and all day Saturday. But the classic,
I thought it was
is kind
like
of the
one
one
race,
people will know.
and like the horse like gets a cup like to drink milk out of. That's called the Breeders' Cup.
It's a cup and it's filled with oats, and actually that's like they just parade them around the entire time. So the classic will essentially be the last race on Saturday. I think there's a race after it, but like this is like the crown jewel of kind of the entire weekend. So that'll be Saturday, kind of around the time for people that are used to it. Probably around the time like at night, maybe after when the Triple Crown races would normally be. Just if you're like trying to reset your clock for kind of like when do I have to tune in and watch this. Tell us about the Breeders' Cup Classic. Like, how long is the race? Who is the favorite? How do you see the race kind of coming together?
The Classic's running 1.25 miles. This is for any horses, 3-year-olds and up. It's the richest race of the weekend. We had our favorite, Arcangelo, decide to kick the stall and scratch out of the race earlier. So now we have a new favorite here. It's going to be Arabian Night, who's breaking from the 12 post. He's one of the speed horses in this spot, and a horse I really was excited about heading into this race before that post position draw. So in horse racing, when you're drawn out of that 12 post and you want to make the lead, you're never going to be inside speed. And inside speed in horse racing has a huge advantage because they win the race to the turn, and then they get to be on the rail, save ground, and slow the pace down. Was a horse number 6 named Saudi Crown, who wants to go to the lead as well. So you're going to see Saudi Crown and Arabian Night early bang heads. And what it does is it's going to weaken Arabian Night on the outside, and that will allow bigger prices and horses that are coming from mid-pack and further back to have a shot to beat them, even though they may not be as good of a horse. So I respect the heck out of Arabian Night. But we're going to get right to it here. We're going to go to a bomb in this race. I like the number 11 horse, Bright Future, 10-1 out of the Todd Pletcher barn. This is a horse that was really highly touted at 2 and 3 and had trouble getting onto the track. His 4-year-old season been much more consistent. Won a $62,000 allowance at Saratoga. Jumped right into the Grade 1 Jockey Gold Cup at Belmont at Aqueduct. Won that race as well, and they decided to pass on the Breeders' Cup Mile, which is a $1 million race, to go into this $6 million race. That's how highly they believe in this horse. I think you're going to see a big-time run from Bright Future, who has tactical speed, should sit right behind those two pace setters, and I'm hoping we can get him home here at 10-1 and have a nice little Saturday at the Breeders' Cup.
All that's in my head right now is come on down, stop on by, grab a carpet and fly through another Arabian night.